Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer. I want you to grab your trowel and put on your historian's hat with me today because we are going on an archaeological excavation. But we aren't just digging up, old pottery or crumbling walls. We are excavating human history through metal. For thousands of years, archaeologists have used coins to literally map the rise and fall of civilizations. The story of money isn't just about economics. It's the story of human power, of trust, and how we actually built the modern world. So imagine waking up tomorrow to discover that every single coin on Earth has just vanished. Gone from your couch cushions, gone from museum vaults, gone from the ocean floor. Now, sure, it sounds like a minor annoyance, right? Since we basically all use cards and phones today anyway. But for us historians and archaeologists, it would be an absolute catastrophe. We would instantly lose humanity's most reliable historical clock, and honestly, our greatest archive. Because coins, well, they were never just money. They were miniature messages cast in metal, carrying the blueprints of ancient societies.
Which brings us to part one of our dig, before money had faces.
Let's start our excavation at the very first historical stratum. We're traveling back about 10,000 years to a time before wallets, before banks, and way before money had faces. Picture a bustling early farming village. Every family is producing something valuable, right? Wheat, clay pots, wool, but they're relying entirely on the barter system. The core puzzle of this system is a concept known as the double coincidence of wants. And it's essentially a massive economic bottleneck. I mean, think about it like the ultimate frustrating shopping trip. If you want a new pair of sandals and you offer the sandal maker fresh fish, but he actually needs firewood, well, you're suddenly trapped in this crazy, complicated chain of negotiations just to get your shoes. To solve this, communities started excavating, or rather, inventing, diverse artifacts to use as currency. Out on the Pacific Islands, they used enormous carved stone discs. In parts of Africa, people traded iron tools and copper bracelets. And across ancient China, they used these beautifully crafted cowrie shells. As archaeologists, we actually find these artifacts scattered across vast distances, which proves they connected really distant communities. But they were deeply flawed. Stone discs are way too bulky. Shells are super fragile, and tools? Try dividing an iron tool in half to make change. Humanity was definitely still searching for the perfect solution. Moving down to part two, stamping trust in metal. That brings us down to our next historical layer, and this is humanity's big breakthrough, the discovery of these almost magical metals. People realized that gold never rusted, silver gleamed for generations, and copper could be melted and remade without spoiling or dying. But before the 7th century BCE, utilizing these metals meant merchants had to painstakingly weigh raw lumps on balance scales for every single transaction. It was incredibly slow and it demanded immense caution. But then, in the 7th century BCE, the Kingdom of Lydia, which is in modern-day Turkey, had a total game-changer of an idea. They stamped small pieces of electrum with official symbols. They weren't just weighing value anymore, they were certifying it. Soon after, the ancient Greeks adopted this and minted coins like the famous owls of Athens. Suddenly, coins weren't just certified metal, they were political propaganda and mass communication, literally spreading a city's identity all across the Mediterranean. Which leads us to part three, Rome's mass media machine. As we dig deeper into the Roman stratum, we find an empire that didn't just use coins. They literally built and unified a vast empire spanning 3 continents with them. The crucial point here is how Julius Caesar fundamentally changed the game. So, for centuries, Roman Republican tradition fiercely discouraged placing a living person's portrait on a coin. Institutions mattered more than individuals. But Caesar, he broke that tradition. He put his own living face right on the silver denarius. It was a breathtaking statement at the time. He basically turned currency into a mass media platform. signaling to millions of citizens across the empire that Rome was shifting from a republic to the rule of one man. But here's the catch. Controlling money also meant you could manipulate it, and that led to the hidden danger of debasement. A pure silver Roman coin commanded immense trust and kept prices stable. But as wars grew more and more expensive, emperors needed a quick fix. So they created a new, debased alternative. They quietly reduced the silver content and replaced it with cheaper copper hidden inside. This sneaky move allowed them to mint way more coins from the exact same amount of precious metal. Now, this triggered a deadly 5-step cycle of inflation that we can track right through the archaeological record. Step 1, the government debases the currency. Step 2, merchants realize the metal is cheaper, so trust erodes. Step 3, citizens start hoarding the old pure silver coins and only spend the new junk ones, a principle we actually call Gresham's Law today. Step 4, because the money is worth less, merchants raise prices for goods. And finally, step 5, the empire's economy just cracks. Think about the inflation you might feel at the grocery store today. Now imagine an ancient Roman citizen struggling to buy a loaf of bread because the coins in their pocket were literally losing their silver day by day. It's wild. Let's turn to part 4, when paper challenged metal. Now let's shift our excavation over to Eurasia, where a revolutionary idea was brewing. An idea that would have seemed completely absurd to ancient civilizations like the Romans. Thousands of kilograms. That is the sheer physical weight of wealth a successful merchant might have had to move during China's Tang Dynasty. Because copper coins were of such low individual value, they had to be strung together in massive strings. Moving large fortunes across the Silk Road became physically exhausting, incredibly slow, and honestly, a massive target for thieves. These merchants desperately needed a solution, so they invented handwritten receipts, promising that the heavy coins could be collected later. By the Song Dynasty, the government realized the sheer brilliance of this and started issuing official state-backed paper money. It was an astonishing leap of faith. When European travelers like Marco Polo later saw this, they were absolutely amazed. It proved something fundamental. Money didn't actually have to be rooted in gold or heavy metal. It was rooted in belief. Trust had officially outweighed metal. Next up, part 5, the global silver web. Uncovering the artifacts of the 15th century, we find a brutal and expansive age of exploration that completely interconnected the globe, weaving what we can call a global silver web. Let's just track the tactile journey of a single piece of silver. A coin extracted at a terrible human cost by forced laborers in the mines of Potosi in present-day Bolivia would be loaded onto Spanish treasure fleets. It crossed perilous oceans while dodging pirates and storms. And its final destination? Often, it flowed all the way into Chinese markets to pay taxes and fuel commerce. These silver coins were the very first ambassadors of globalization, silently connecting cultures that would otherwise never meet face to face. Finally, part 6, excavating the future. Let's dig into the final layer of our explainer, looking at how the modern world finally outgrew its absolute reliance on precious metal altogether. Paper money in the 18th and 19th centuries was still anchored to the gold standard. But massive modern events, like the incredible costs of World War I and the shattered confidence during the Great Depression of 1929, they strained those gold reserves to the breaking point. Finally, in 1971, President Richard Nixon officially ended the U.S. dollar's convertibility into gold. This created modern fiat currency. Money today is valuable simply because our governments declare it so, and most importantly, because we collectively believe in it. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from our historical dig today. From ancient cowrie shells to Lydian electrum, to Roman silver, and all the way up to modern fiat currency, the true history of money is not actually about metal at all. It is the history of human confidence. It's the story of collective belief building marketplaces, funding discoveries, and shaping civilizations, all condensed into an object that fits perfectly in the palm of your hand. Which leaves us with a fascinating and maybe slightly unsettling question to end on. Today, billions of purchases happen without a single coin changing hands. Our digital transactions flash across screens in milliseconds. So, when our wealth leaves absolutely no physical trace whatsoever, what artifacts are we leaving behind in the strata of tomorrow? What on earth will future archaeologists actually deduce about our society? Think about that the next time you tap your phone to pay for a coffee. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep digging into the past, and I'll see you next time.